30, 35 down the sidelines to the 40, makes a move to the 45, the 50, he's to the 40, he could go, he's at the 25, the 20, they dive at him, they miss him, he's in the end zone, touchdown!
Throws off his back foot, wide open man in the end zone, leaping grab, touchdown!
Launches the throw down toward the goal line, going up, ball tipped in the air, caught, touchdown!
Reverses his field, got a block from Pittman, going deep, got a man in the end zone, touchdown!
It's a man's game tonight now, you know that. Everybody watching tonight.
And now it's the Undefined Blitz with Chad and JC.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Once again, it is time for the Undefined Blitz right here on undefinedradio.com. Appreciate you guys and gals. Hope this Monday is treating you well. It is treating us well, finally.
Yes, sir.
Because a football team in Texas actually won something.
Specifically, a football team in Arlington, Texas.
That is correct. The Arlington Renegades. If you're looking at the ticker down there, well, it's not up. I guess I better put it up. But what you will see is the Arlington Renegades have won the first ever XFL championship in the DeWayne Johnson era.
That's correct. So technically, it's the second ever XFL championship. The first one was won by the Orlando Rage, I believe, in the original XFL. Tommy Maddox was the quarterback for that team. Of course, he went on, he parlayed that into a pretty short, I think 3 or 4 year run with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Had decent success. Of course, he was the transition quarterback to Ben Roethlisberger, and of course, the rest is history after that.
That's right.
So yeah, the XFL has been putting guys in the pros for 20 years, apparently.
Yeah, really. And so the Arlington Renegades, they beat the DC Defenders, beating another Washington team.
Yeah, which
35 to
you love to see.
26.
But what I personally hated about having to play DC was, one, DC was the best team in the XFL all season.
Yes, they were.
But also Jordan Teamu was on that DC team. Of course, he was the XFL MVP, former Ole Miss Rebel, but also so was Fadal Brown, another former Ole Miss Rebel there on the defensive side of the ball for the DC Defenders. But once I got past that, it's a really fun game to watch as an Arlington Renegades fan.
There you go.
And I guess it's weird celebrating an XFL championship. To me, it almost seems the equivalent of when your favorite college basketball team goes out and they win the NIT championship.
That's right.
Instead of the national championship.
Yeah.
Kind of feels like that.
That's really true.
Like, yeah, we
That is
achieved
true.
something, but did we really?
Yeah. We
Except
won the
for
consolation prize of football.
yeah,
pro
essentially
football.
that's what it is. But you know, the XFL, the last one 3 years ago during the pandemic, or well, it was going until the pandemic hit.
That's right.
It was going well. It was very successful. It was good football. It was fun to watch. And this year, it was more of the same. Now, we saw a lot of returning XFL stars. Luis Perez, the quarterback for the Arlington Renegades, was in the last iteration of the XFL. Jordan Teamu, who is the XFL MVP this year, was well on his way to being the XFL MVP 3 years ago with the St. Louis Battlehawks.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
a lot of these guys had changed teams. Some of them actually landed back on their old teams. But it was great that we saw familiar faces. I thought that was good for the league. But going into this XFL title game, we talked about this last week. We thought Arlington, one, had no business being there because they were 4-6 in the regular season. But then they dominate Houston for the South Division title. And then they turn around in the XFL title game and they dominated DC.
Yes.
The score will tell you that they only won by one XFL touchdown because it was 9 points.
Yep.
So a touchdown and a 3-point conversion. But the game was never really that close.
Exactly.
I mean, Arlington put it on DC. If DC didn't have a few home run plays in this game,
It's not even close.
yeah, they were completely out of it. Jordan Teamu made a lot of big plays, but he also made a lot of really bad throws. I think DC ultimately ended up with 3 turnovers in this game, and I think Arlington scored off of every single one of them.
Arlington's defense was great all season. Though.
All season, they were top notch.
The defense, we said this from day after that first week we saw them, like the defense is really good. Offense,
Offense couldn't get it together for most of the season, and then until Arlington trades for Luis Perez. Perez started the year as the quarterback of the Vipers, who coincidentally played the first XFL game of the season on opening day against Arlington.
That's right.
In Arlington at Choctaw Stadium. I thought as a full circle moment, maybe the XFL's rigged.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to float this out there because game one, who was there? DeWayne Johnson and Danny Garcia. DeWayne's in the Arlington Renegades jersey, cuts an electric promo in front of the few thousand people that were there. And then fast forward to the championship game, there's Arlington once again, and he's presenting Arlington with the championship trophy. Or, well, Danny presented Bob Stoops with the XFL championship trophy.
Bob Stoops.
And, yeah, good old Oklahoma, college football national champion, college football Hall of Famer, Bob Stoops. And then DeWayne actually presented Luis Perez with the most valuable player trophy for the XFL title game. But Luis Perez started with the Vipers. He gets traded to the Renegades. At the point that the Renegades got Perez, they were averaging about 13.3 points per game.
Yes.
After Perez, it was in the upper 19. So Luis Perez added an additional touchdown per game to the Arlington offense. And it took them a few weeks to get going, but when they hit their stride, it was at the exact right time because it was in the playoffs.
Well, it wasn't. You put an offense who can score points with a defense that can just put another offense on its heels the entire game. Because we saw that the last 2 weeks you had dynamic offenses that the Renegades defense said, and now you've got this younger quarterback coming in to go, okay, it's a totally different dynamic now. We're a little more electrifying. Give us a short field. Let me show you what we can do.
And Luis Perez might be the best quarterback to ever play spring ball. He's definitely the most well-traveled. He played in the AAF, which if you guys don't remember, it was terrible football.
Very terrible football.
He played in that second version of the XFL 3 years ago.
That's right.
And then after that, he played in the USFL last season and then played again in the XFL this year. And now he's XFL champion and XFL championship game most valuable player.
Which, again, it's pretty cool.
It was awesome.
It's pretty cool.
Because he made all throws, especially the first drive of the game, the opening drive of the game. Arlington gets the ball. Perez moves them down the field. And honestly, he kind of pulled out some magic because he got lit up on that first drive. He got hit a lot. And ultimately, it ended with him hitting, I forget the guy's name. It's Sal something. But he hits it. I think he's a tight end. But he hit him with a pass across the middle, short slant. He hits him with it as he's getting lit up. Gets the ball to Sal. Sal makes a guy miss and weaves his way 40 yards for a touchdown.
I love there's a lot of guys we just don't know, right?
Yeah, there's
names we you don't even remember that you even heard who they were.
Exactly. And then of course, after that, DC gets the ball. They go down the field. No. They actually went 3 and out right there. They go 3 and out. Arlington gets the ball back. They go down the field, score another touchdown. DC gets the ball. They go down the field. Jordan Teamu ends up throwing a interception in the end zone once they got down into the red zone area. And then Arlington takes the ball, goes down the field, ends up kicking a field goal. They're up 17-0 early in the second quarter. It stayed 17-0 basically through the first half. And then in the second half, that's when DC's offense comes alive, but it's not really coming alive. They're just getting these home run plays. They had like a 70-yard touchdown run, a 40-plus yard touchdown pass. But every time that they would do that, Arlington answered right back.
Yeah.
Every time. This game got to a point where I think it was 20-26 in the third quarter. But after that, it was just really all Renegades.
See, there you go. I'll have to go back and watch the game now. All of it.
It was fun, dude. It was chippy. It was such a chippy game, man. The DC players were so pissed. And they were constantly getting flagged for stuff after the play. And the Arlington guys would occasionally do it too. And they got flagged for it a little bit. But they were way more locked in on the game itself. And they didn't let the emotion of the game get to them.
DC thought they were going to come in here and cakewalk Arlington. And when that wasn't happening.
It was not the case ever.
I love that. I do love that.
Yeah, so shout out to Bob Stoops. Shout out to Luis Perez. Shout out to whoever's idea in that organization it was to make the trade for Perez.
Really, and shout out to the XFL for a great first season under Danny and
DeWayne.
And DeWayne. Because look, we want some extra football. One of the things I think this is good overall for everybody because you get to see other players. Again, we talk about it. players who may have washed out of the NFL, players who may not have actually gotten a great shot, because let's face it, you don't have a lot of time in spring ball to make a statement if you're one of the lower tier guys to make on one of these NFL teams. A lot of that.
No.
So I think it's a good thing for a lot of them to be able to get out here and get a second and third look where they might not otherwise have had that.
Oh, absolutely. And look, this game did kind of, we talked about the Cardiac Kids being the St. Louis Battlehawks earlier this year, where they were pulling off 4th and 15s and stuff like that. DC found themselves in that spot in this game. So they score a late touchdown to make it 35-29 or 26, 35-26. So they opt to go for the 4th and 15 play. Well, the 4th and 15 play, for those of you who don't know, it operates as if it were actually 4th and 15.
Yes.
All the same rules apply. If you throw an incomplete pass, it's a turnover on downs at the line of scrimmage. Well, Jordan Te'amu threw an interception to Crayvon LeBlanc, who ran it back a little bit and then realized, hey, there's no reason for me to do this. And he just went down, after which the Renegades came out there and they just took knees to run out the clock. So that was interesting to see. Like, even though the game wasn't competitive, there was always that moment of doubt that DC could pull it off.
That's right, because they were still in it.
Yeah, late.
Mathematically, you're still in it.
Still in it. And they were still playing hard.
Speaking of mathematics, seems like Matt Ryan has found a new home, but he's not officially retired.
Oh, talking about those mathematics.
That's right.
Yes, so ex-Falcons and Colts quarterback Matt Ryan has joined CBS as an analyst.
However, he did go on to say that this is not a retirement post. I'm not announcing my retirement, which means if somebody wants to come a-calling and in need of a quarterback, which we have seen
absolutely
throughout the season, it can happen. He could be available. So I'm curious to see that contract. Like,
there's definitely
those stipulations that have to be in there.
There's a clause in there that allows him to go to camp or whatever if he gets an opportunity. For those of you who are listening, Matt Ryan does turn 38 this Wednesday.
That's right.
So in 2 days he'll be 38 years old. Of course, the Colts just cut him, which cleared $17 million in cap space for Indy, but $12 million of the remaining sum he is owed is connected to his 2023 base salary. And if he were to actually retire, that would impact his right to those payments.
Exactly.
So for those of you keeping score, Matt Ryan's played 15 seasons in the NFL, and really he faces an uncertain future after a very up and down year with the Colts last season. He was benched twice. He was plagued by turnovers. He fumbled 15 times, which was a career high and the second most in the NFL last year. He also threw 13 interceptions.
Well, let's face it. The Colts were terrible.
They were, yes.
There were lots of reasons for Matt Ryan's and every other quarterback in Indy not doing well.
And you that was one season in Indy, right?
Yes.
It's a new scheme, new coaches, new building, new teammates. Everything's new there.
Yeah.
You look at Matt Ryan's run in Atlanta. He played there for 14 years, and he holds most of the franchise's key passing records.
Oh, yeah.
He's the team's all-time leader in passing yards with 59,735, touchdown passes, 367, completions with 5,242. He's also in the NFL's top 10 in career passing yards. He's seventh all-time in NFL history with 62,792 passing yards. And he's also ninth in career touchdown passes with 381.
And you look at,
so like this guy's probably going to be a Hall of Famer.
Oh, he should be. I mean, look at what he's done. And I get he hasn't won a Super Bowl. I don't care. Kyle Shanahan's offense in that Super Bowl just ran out of gas. They were going so fast all game long, and the defense had to spend so much time on the field. Talking about the Atlanta defense, that's right.
Also
Atlanta defense ran out of gas big time
because the Patriots were just playing their normal game.
That's right.
But because the Atlanta offense was moving so fast, they ran out of gas because their defense was on the field so much. They ran out of gas. And, of course, in that second half, that offense couldn't get anything going. Although they threatened things a few times, ultimately they would give up sacks that would push them out of field goal range. think in the second half, if they just score any points,
They win.
they win the Super Bowl.
That's it.
If they scored literally any points.
They just couldn't do it.
I mean, of course, there was a crazy Julian Edelman catch. Like, there was a lot of wild things that worked against Atlanta in that Super Bowl. But
as a Matt Ryan Hall of Famer,
for all intents and purposes, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones should be rocking Super Bowl championships.
yes, they should. And again, Matt Ryan's been a great quarterback. He was a difference maker for that organization.
Yeah, it turned it around. Made people actually care about the Atlanta Falcons.
Exactly. And he's called Matty Ice for a reason.
Absolutely.
All right, the guy will hang in there and he will sling the rock. He'll just do it. And look, 38 is not like it is for any other position in football, especially in this day and age with how athletes can develop, how they can maintain their bodies, and just what our physical fitness levels are now compared to 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's a whole different monster. That's why you can see Tom Brady still playing and Aaron Rodgers and these guys playing later in their career because they're able to. The rules are built around protecting them more. And not only that, but again, like I said, the fitness level of these athletes now and what all the tools they have to extend their careers, especially at the quarterback position, it's all there to see some of these guys have these longer careers and able to set records because some of these records that were set by quarterbacks who only played 8-10 years at the most.
Right.
And now you see guys playing 12, 15, 17, 18 years. You're going to see a lot of records fall. But that doesn't take away from, I think, what they do because, again, he's throwing yardage. He was almost a Super Bowl champion. Like you said, for all intents and purposes, probably should have been. And I loved watching Matty Ice play. I mean, if you're putting Dan Marino in the Hall of Fame, never win the championship, Matty Ice has to be there too.
Yeah, I agree with that. And speaking of the age thing, talking about guys that are playing later and particularly at that position, the quarterback spot, you know, going back to the draft, a lot of the discussion around the quarterbacks in this year's draft class was a lot of them are older guys.
Yeah.
There's a lot of 24, 25-year-old quarterbacks in this draft class. And I'm okay with that. Like at the quarterback position, I think if anything, it helps you.
It does. Makes you mature a lot more.
Now, I would be concerned if we were talking about a 25-year-old tight end. I'd be concerned about a 25-year-old running back, 25-year-old wide receiver, corner. They're coming into the league at a skill position at age 25 or older.
You don't have long.
Yeah, I've got to hope that you tear it up on your rookie deal
because you're lucky to get a second one.
Absolutely,
not a big one.
Yeah, but if you're a quarterback, you know, if you're a Stetson Bennett, let's say, and you're 25 years old and you hit free agency again at 29, you might be in line for a big payday.
It's certainly
because
possible.
You look at the situation he's in. Just for example, he's backing up Matt Stafford in LA. Stafford, because of the injuries that are mounting up for him.
Yes.
And let's not forget Matt Stafford's been in the league for quite a while.
Oh, dude, yes, he has. Yes, he has.
So I'd say Matt Stafford probably be done in the next 2 to 3 years, most likely.
Probably.
And if that's the case, that's going to give Stetson Bennett an opportunity to show whether or not he can play in the NFL. Yeah, Matt Stafford's a year older than I am. A year and 2 days to be exact. So he's 35, which again, maybe he can play for another 5 years, but I think with the rate his injuries are piling up, especially you factor in a lot of the injuries that he suffered in Detroit before he ever came to LA. If the Rams organization thinks that Stetson Bennett could be that guy, they may just very well move on from Matt Stafford, regardless of whether or not he retires.
I mean, certainly that's possible.
And I think we can see where maybe the age thing helps somebody else. Hendon Hooker in Detroit. You know, he's in that 24, 25 age range. He'll be backing up Jared Goff this year. He probably won't even play this year. He might. But Jared Goff's on the last year of his deal. Hendon Hooker could be the guy in Detroit next season.
I mean, it's possible. And again, it's going to depend on how he develops. I think if they're smart, they give him this whole season to develop. There's no reason to put him out there.
Oh, I'm with you.
There's
for
just
sure.
none. Let this kid learn.
And let him heal, too.
Let him heal up and just.
I mean, he tore his ACL back in November, so
exactly.
He's not that far removed from it.
No. He's got plenty of opportunity in the future. I think you're right. I think he needs to. definitely think he needs to sit back and just learn. Yeah, I was sitting here looking at some of these teams. They've got how they're set up for success,
like the preseason power rankings.
Yeah, and these are the power rankings set after the draft.
Okay,
I want to go through this with you. Number 1, Kansas City Chiefs.
That makes sense.
I mean,
reigning Super Bowl champions.
Right,
I get it.
Be. Number 2, Cincinnati Bengals. They improved their offensive line needs
they
big
did.
time, which is what they needed. We've been talking about this for a while now, it seems like. Number 3 is the Philadelphia Eagles. Hard to believe that you can do the things that they've done, but they have.
And it feels like they got better.
That's what I'm saying.
Like they lost a lot of players, and not only did they replace those players, but they got young, high ceiling guys.
Exactly. So they just didn't plug and play guys. Like, oh, we got body, we get a body. So Buffalo Bills, number 4.
Man, I'm kind of over Buffalo at this point. Like, yeah, Josh Allen's great, but I just at some point you just got to accept this. The guy's not going to get it done. It's kind of like how Dallas has been for the last 16, 17 years.
Yep.
Basically since Tony Romo took over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just not going to get – Tony Romo didn't get it done. Dak Prescott's not getting it done.
No.
Are they great regular season quarterbacks? Absolutely.
Yeah, but postseason, no.
Postseason, they're
They're
not
not built for it.
And I think Josh Allen you could put on any team in the league, and that team would be in the playoffs every single year.
Yeah.
I just don't know if Josh Allen's the guy who can get over the hump.
I don't know that he is either. It's the craziest thing to me. I'm like you said, there's a lot of great regular season guys, but I mean, it doesn't mean nothing that if you're in there just destroying your division. Here's the difference, because I used to say this a lot, and I still stand by a lot of it, but the difference is that you look at the New England Patriots. They played in the crappiest division in football for 2 decades, almost. You can't look at that division and go, oh, well, if it wasn't for the Patriots, these guys would be good. No, those teams sucked.
Yeah, they were
Every
terrible.
year they were awful. However,
the Jets had a couple years where they were okay. I think the Dolphins had one. But
other than that
was with Tannehill at quarterback.
That's right. But other than that, perennially, they were all bad.
Yes. Yeah.
And you think, all right, well, that's easy wins for New England. They're automatically going to get these wins because you kind of looked at it that way for the most part. But when they got to the playoffs, still, they took care of business.
Absolutely.
So, and that's really the telltale sign of a great football team is, sure, you can play a sorry schedule. And the Cowboys have done that many times.
Yeah.
They have rolled through with some 13-3 records. They put up some great regular season records, but get to the playoffs, they're like, 0-1, go home.
Yep. And that's all it takes.
San Francisco 49ers, number 5.
But, we were talking about the Cowboys before we move on to San Francisco here. I saw something, it was not long after the playoffs or after Dallas got eliminated from the playoffs by these very San Francisco 49ers we're about to talk about. But it was a side-by-side comparison of Dak Prescott to this point in his career and Peyton Manning through the same point in his career.
Yeah.
Their numbers are damn near identical.
Yeah.
Actually, Dak is outpacing Peyton in a lot of categories. Peyton had way more interceptions than Dak by this point. They had the same playoff record, 2-4.
Yeah.
But Dak's got, more yards per attempt. If anything, I'm not saying that Dak Prescott's Peyton Manning.
No.
Let's
clear that up right now.
I'm not saying that. However, what I'm saying is there's no reason that he can't get it on track the way that Peyton did.
No. And I feel, and again, when
Peyton played in 4 Super Bowls, he won 2.
That's right. And when you're looking at numbers, honestly, you have to look at everything behind those numbers.
Context matters.
Your division you played in, the NFC East has been the NFC East for almost 2 decades. You usually have one team that was dominant, sometimes almost 2, but the other 2 are guaranteed to be cellar dwellers.
And now now it is a dominant division.
Now it's finally a dominant division. So Dak has played most of his career in the NFC East.
Yes.
And so when you're winning football in a division like that and you're putting up all these numbers, that's great.
Because he's always struggled against teams that were playoff caliber teams.
Yes.
He's always struggled against those oppositions.
Crushes people who are losing teams.
Yeah.
But can you beat winning teams? I think that's the difference between Peyton Manning and Dak Prescott. Peyton could win, even sometimes unbelievably so, against teams who were so much better.
But also, disclaimer, Peyton Manning had 2 Hall of Fame wide receivers.
Oh, no
that
doubt.
he played with.
No doubt.
He had 2 Hall of Fame wide
No doubt.
receivers.
No
Not just 1.
2.
2.
But that's the thing, though. Peyton could get these guys the ball.
And then when he got to Denver, at that point, his brain, you know how his forehead just keeps getting bigger? His brain had expanded so much that he just knew all the football.
Yeah. He could do more with less.
And he just relied on the football brain and not the football arm at that point.
Like when he had the dead arm and he really couldn't throw. You knew his mind was still there.
Yeah.
Like his arm, he's got all the strength back now, so he can actually go out there and toss a football again. But at that time, he could not throw it anywhere. But his mind is so sharp.
And
he knows it.
And he made those plays in the Super Bowl. Now, granted, that defense was so lights out that year. So that Denver Broncos defense was so tremendous.
Yeah, without that defense, they're not there.
Absolutely. But you look at the Broncos, was just a year before that or 2 years before that where they went to the Super Bowl and got beat by Seattle.
Yep.
Yeah, it was 2 years before that.
Handily, too.
But
destroyed.
They weren't a defensive football team at that point.
They
they were an offensive football team. They had the most high-powered offense that the league had ever seen to that point.
Yep.
Hammered. And got hammered.
Legion of Boom just thumped them.
So I guess the moral of this conversation is don't get wrapped up in offensive stats.
That's right. Exactly.
Because defense wins championship. Ask the Arlington Renegades.
Exactly. Number 5, San Francisco 49ers. They dropped 3. They were at number 2. They improved at the defensive tackle spot. Number 6 is Miami
But they still don't have a quarterback.
They don't. And that's going to be a problem. And I get it. People are like, well.
I actually think they're worse at quarterback now than they were last year.
I think they were too. It's going to be interesting.
But here's a fun fact. Brock Purdy's contract does not even count against their salary cap.
Which is insane.
Because he was Mr. Irrelevant and only the top 51 contracts on the team as far as monetary value count against the salary cap. Contracts 52 and 53 don't count.
Yeah.
And Brock Purdy is contract 53.
That's funny. Miami Dolphins, number 6. They improved their defense significantly.
I don't know about 6.
Yeah,
I don't know about 6. I mean, if you want to say that they're like 10, I'm here for it. I don't know about 6 though.
Dallas has moved up to number 7, improving their defensive line. They brought in Brandon Cooks, which I love this pickup.
Yeah, it's a huge move for that offense. Basically, you went from having Noah Brown as your third option to having Brandon Cooks.
That's right.
Or you could say them, or you say Michael Gallup's your third option.
That's right.
Any way you want to look at it, it's an upgrade.
It is. It definitely is. They learned a valuable lesson last year.
Yeah. I don't know if I love the second round tight end that Cowboys got.
Yeah.
Schoonover or however you say it.
Yeah.
Don't really love that one because he's an older tight end coming in. And Jake Ferguson was kind of the truth last year. So I hope
I figure that's probably where they'll go.
Well, he was a rookie 4th round pick.
That's right.
But you just paid a 2 for the Schoonover guy. So does that kind of push Schoonover ahead of Ferguson? Or will we see an actual meritocracy where you got to earn it?
I think we'll see the meritocracy there. Once they see, because Jake Ferguson knows the offense.
Yeah.
Schoonover does not.
He does not. And Peyton Hendershot had some good moments, but he kind of disappeared late in the season.
Yeah, and I was sitting here looking at some of the things with the Cowboys because Dante Fowler's coming back.
Yes.
They've got Micah.
Yes.
And they drafted Mozzie Smith, who I think is going to be a great get for them. I'm excited to see what this defense does.
Trash can full of dirt, Mozzie Smith.
Dude, I swear. But Sam Williams was a find. Last year,
hotty toddy, baby.
Some of us knew about Sam Williams, right? But his introduction, can he play at the NFL level? Last year, he proved he can play. I think with that year under his belt, he's going to be great for this defense.
Yeah,
right here.
And we saw Oso Digizua take a step forward.
I love Digizua.
Still don't think I don't think Dallas even knows what they have in Chauncey Golston still. But then the Cowboys pick up a guy like DeMarvion Overshown.
Yep. I'm excited about Overshown. See how he plays.
As far as a raw athlete,
oh, he's a monster.
Guy has enough athleticism. He can remind you in situations of a Micah. The problem is his instincts are terrible.
That's right.
So, they are. I mean, they are bad.
And we're Texas fans. We watched him play.
Yeah. Well, I watched a lot of Texas.
We watched a lot of Texas football.
Now, if DeMarvion Overshown gets you in his crosshairs,
watch out.
I'm going to go ahead and call the funeral home.
Yes.
Because we need to start making preparations. But the problem is he plays out of position so much because his instincts are terrible.
So this is what happens with the Cowboys. They get me excited about watching the football now. And then I'm like, oh, at the end of the season, I'm scratching my head. Then I have to say, well, at least I can watch Micah Parsons play.
Right.
It seems to be how it is. Because I love Micah. Micah's like my favorite player in the NFL.
Yeah, he's great.
I just love that dude.
And he's beefing up, man.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to play a lot more defensive end this year. Micah basically said that he was changing positions. Dan Quinn came out and said, whoa.
Pump the brakes, buddy.
Pump the brakes. You are too valuable to just be playing one spot.
Oh, no. We'll keep everybody guessing. Baltimore Ravens moved way up in the power rankings. They are sitting at number 8 right now.
Well, they move up in those power rankings because they got Lamar back.
Yes.
And then they add Odell.
Yeah, Zay Flowers.
Oh, man, Zay Flowers. Forgot about that. Yeah, huge get. So that offense should look much better. Now, it depends on the scheme. They did sign or they hired the offensive coordinator from the Georgia Bulldogs to come run that offense in Baltimore. So maybe that passing game can finally get going for Lamar because it's basically been a ground-oriented offensive scheme with checkdowns to the tight ends most of Lamar's career.
So look at this. Lamar Jackson will be throwing to 4 former first-round wide receivers this year.
So Rashad Bateman, Odell, Zay Flowers,
Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah.
Yep. If you're a Baltimore Raven fan, you've got to be a lot more excited than you have been.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you just have to be at this point.
Although a lot of that happiness is completely contingent upon Lamar staying healthy.
Well, let's talk about the Chargers. They're at number 9. They dropped a long way down this list because they were sitting high before.
And they're not a bad team by any means, but they just never really seem to put it together. And it feels, you know how you watch the Cowboys in the Jason Garrett era and largely the beginning of the Mike McCarthy era, and you're just like, this coach is holding this team back.
Yep.
It's kind of how it feels watching the Chargers and Brandon Staley.
That's right.
Feels like he's holding that offense back. Now, they added Quentin Johnston in the draft to go along with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. So you got to like they got Justin Herbert another weapon. That's great.
Oh, yeah.
The problem is your star running back, arguably the best running back in the NFL. I know people will talk about Derrick Henry, but the thing is Austin Eckler is way more versatile than Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Like Derrick Henry can catch the ball, but they don't throw it to him a lot because he can just run you over. But Austin Eckler can do it all, and he can run you over. And he's not that big, but he's pound for pound the strongest guy in the NFL. So, but Eckler wants out. He realizes that he's probably going to have to play this year in LA.
Sure.
It's just how it is, the way his contract is set up. But next year he can move on. So the Chargers are essentially in a win now kind of window because they could be moving on from Austin Eckler and possibly Keenan Allen come next offseason.
Oh, absolutely. Jacksonville Jaguars round out the top 10.
Okay. I like it.
Look at that. This team.
2 years ago, or really just last year. Last year, they were picking with the number 1 overall pick for the second year in a row.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And here they are in the top 10 of the power ranking.
Absolutely. Seattle Seahawks are at number 11. They improved their secondary big time. New York Jets go from 16 to 12.
Well, the power of Aaron Rodgers.
That's right, yeah. Detroit Lions.
Because you look at the Jets last year, think about how many times they won ugly games. You think about how many times that offense failed to score a touchdown or only scored single-digit points. Aaron Rodgers is going to elevate those guys, especially Garrett Wilson. And Garrett Wilson was the offensive rookie of the year last year.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, sky's the limit. He could be this could turn Garrett Wilson into an all-pro type player.
No doubt. Detroit Lions at number 13.
I mean, I like it. I love the steps forward that Detroit showed last season. They barely missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a tiebreaker situation that they missed the playoffs.
But this year they could win their division.
They could. You don't have Aaron Rodgers anymore.
No.
It remains to see although you got to like what Chicago's doing.
You do.
I think Chicago is showing that they are trying to build that team around Justin Fields.
Yes, they are.
And they got him some weapons, so I'm not quite sleeping on them. Minnesota was that pretender team this past year, which I see that they're number 14 on this list. Their offense could score points and they could win games, but their defense was terrible.
Awful.
And it finally caught up to them in the playoffs where they lost a home game to the New York Giants.
Absolutely. 15, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I
dropped a couple spots, but
I don't think I think if anything, they should have risen a couple spots. I love what the Steelers did this offseason. I love what they did in the draft. Getting Joey Porter Jr. at the top of the second round is a steal.
It is.
They got Darnell Washington. You can use him as an inline tight end, or you can split him out wide. I think if Kenny Pickett can show progress in his second season, which he showed progress towards the end of his rookie year, if he shows that big step forward in year 2, watch out for the Steelers because they could be a nightmare. The problem is they're in the best division of quarterbacks in the entire NFL.
Exactly. Number 16, New England Patriots.
I'm just calling it an eh.
Yeah. 17, New York Giants.
I don't know about the Giants, man, because like Derek Jones took a step forward last year. Like Brian Daboll running that show obviously helped.
Yes.
But Saquon is on his franchise tag. He wants a long-term deal done. It looks like they're in no hurry to get that done. If they get it done, they may be willing to move on from Saquon.
Sure.
And their wide receiver room, while they have a ton of bodies in that wide receiver room, you don't just believe in any of them.
No. Cleveland Browns at number 18.
I think that's actually kind of low for Cleveland. Because say what you will about Deshaun Watson as a human being, he's a damn good quarterback.
And now he'll have a full off season.
He'll have a full off season to get all the reps in with the first team offense. That Deshaun Watson, Amari Brown connection or Amari Cooper connection could really step up for the Browns.
They picked up Elijah Moore from the Jets.
Traded for Elijah Moore from the Jets. Still got Nick Chubb in that backfield. Like there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about the Cleveland Browns.
Number 19, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Man, I don't know what the Raiders are going to be. Like they have their talent on that team would make you believe that they're going to be a lot better than what their record will end up being.
Absolutely. Number 20, the Green Bay Packers. And I love this because there's the most improved on all these, and there says nowhere.
Yeah.
It's just sad. But here we are. This is going to be wild.
I mean, they lost Big Bob Tunyon. They lost Mercedes Lewis. They lost Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb. They lost some guy named Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
They got Lucas Van Ness in the first round, which I like. I like that get.
Sure.
But that makes 2 years in a row where they spent all their first round capital on drafting defensive line.
That's right. 21, New Orleans Saints.
I mean, I like the direction they're headed. Getting Derek Carr, I think, will make all the difference for this offense. And he's not a just great quarterback, but he's serviceable.
Either. That's right.
He could, with as bad as that division's expected to be.
Yes.
He can win them the division title.
That's right.
And get them to the playoffs.
Because they're not a bad team. They need a quarterback.
They have a lot of talent on the team.
They do have a lot of talent. A quarterback is much needed.
Absolutely.
And Derek Carr can help them out. It definitely
I'm
is
with you.
great. Carolina Panthers are sitting at 22 right now.
They're really interesting.
They are interesting, especially because of the moves they made this offseason.
Yeah,
draft.
They get Bryce Young. They brought over Miles Sanders from Philly. They get Jonathan Mingo in the second round of the draft.
And that dude's a stud. I think a lot of people who don't follow Ole Miss football, there's a lot of folks who don't understand the power of Jonathan Mingo, what this kid can bring to the field.
Just everything that you think about A.J. Brown, just transfer that right on over to Jonathan Mingo.
Right.
He has the potential to be that same player.
He does.
But you look at the pieces that Carolina's had on defense the last couple of years, you can expect more of the same there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like they've got some dogs on defense. And I expect them to take a step forward for sure.
Number 23, the Denver Broncos.
All right, so go back 2 years ago. What were you and I talking about with the Denver Broncos? What did they need?
They had to have a quarterback.
They had to have a quarterback.
Had to have a quarterback.
Last offseason, they went and they got the quarterback, right?
Yes.
But they brought in a first-time head coach.
Yes.
Even though this head coach had a lot of success with Aaron Rodgers, which, by the way, he's back coaching Aaron Rodgers for the Jets. He's his offensive coordinator.
Which is interesting.
Nathaniel Hackett,
That's right.
But Nathaniel Hackett didn't work out in Denver. That offense never got going. He's out the door. Now Sean Payton's the guy.
That's right.
Sean Payton, all he did was take Drew Brees when everyone thought Drew Brees' shoulder was destroyed and he would never live up to his second round pick billing.
That's right.
And turned him into a Hall of Famer.
Exactly.
He's already got a guy who's a borderline Hall of Famer at quarterback with Russell Wilson.
Yes.
There's no reason, in my opinion, that the Denver Broncos shouldn't be the second best team in the AFC West this year.
You got to remember how many times Russell Wilson was sacked last year. That offensive line was porous at best.
And they addressed it.
Yep.
They addressed offensive line. They got in the big brain in Sean Payton. And that defense was talented. They were talented. They were tremendous. And honestly, the reason they won games last year was because of that defense.
The Denver Broncos will go to a quicker passing game, a much shorter passing game, and they will get their players out in space.
Absolutely.
And that will keep Russell Wilson on his feet and using the tools he can use. And it will be all the difference between the Russell Wilson last year and I believe the Russell Wilson we'll see this year.
Because remember, like Drew Brees, Russell Wilson's not a tall guy.
No,
well, not a football tall guy.
That's right.
He's taller than me, but he's not a football tall guy. And Sean Payton has a long track record and a Super Bowl ring of getting the best out of shorter quarterbacks.
Right. We got to watch the Commanders at 24.
It's a toss up on what I think the Commanders might be. Commanders got new ownership.
Yep.
The Josh Harris group, which Magic Johnson's also a part of, has now taken over for the Washington Commanders, or they have put in the winning bid for the Commanders.
Exactly.
The sale has not been official yet.
Yep.
It feels like they're making some pieces, they're making some moves, but a lot of their most important pieces are coming up on the end of their deals.
That's right. Exactly.
So this could be a make or break season for the Commanders as far as how that roster is constructed. And Washington wasn't far away from making the playoffs last year. I mean, it could have been the first time where we saw the division champion and then the three wildcard teams all be from the same division, which the Commanders were the only one from the NFC East that didn't make it, but it's not like they missed the playoffs by a lot.
Exactly. 25 Los Angeles Rams.
Well, hopefully everybody comes back healthy this year for the Rams.
They were destroyed last year.
Matt Stafford had an elbow issue going into the season.
That's right.
It never got better. He missed a bunch of time. Cooper Kupp went down with injury. Of course, they traded off a lot of their good players from the Super Bowl team. They picked up Bobby Wagner, and he was tremendous for him.
Yep.
He was absolutely awesome for that terrible Rams team, but he's back in Seattle this year. So I don't know how to feel about the Rams. I do know that I'm not going to doubt Sean McVay, though.
Here's an interesting one. Atlanta Falcons at number 26.
Same deal for me as the Saints, right? There's a lot of young talent on that team. The Saints have a lot of older talent, veteran talent. The Falcons have a lot of young talent. They bring in Bijan Robinson, which is great. You pair him with Kyle Pitts and Drake London, you should have something brewing there. But that's all going to be contingent upon how well does Desmond Ridder develop moving into his second season.
Yeah. 27, Chicago Bears.
Really like what Chicago did this offseason. They get Darnell Washington, who's a true right tackle, which is what the Bears offensive line needed in the draft. They brought over DJ Moore in the trade with the Panthers. They got Chase Claypool last year. They got Tyler Scott, Equanimous St. Brown, don't forget about Darnell Mooney. Like, there's a lot of weapons in the offense. They got Cole Kmet still at tight end. If that defense can get it together, maybe the Bears are pushing the Vikings and Lions in that conversation of who's going to run the NFC North.
28, the Tennessee Titans.
Surprised they're not lower.
I am too,
Really?
honestly. What a disaster this team is.
It has been a dumpster fire.
I mean, this whole organization, I don't even know what's happening in Tennessee right now.
Yeah, they released Taylor Lewan. They cut Ben Jones. They traded A.J. Brown last year. Like, it's like they're trying to do a rebuild with everyone but Derrick Henry, but supposedly the rumors are that they're shopping Derrick Henry too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't expect Tennessee to be very good this year.
No. 29, the Indianapolis Colts.
Well, we all know the big flashy things that they drafted Anthony Richardson.
That's right.
And Anthony Richardson's that super high ceiling, super low floor prospect. You don't know what you're going to get with him. Accuracy has always been an issue. It was an issue at Florida last year. I don't think it's going to get better in the NFL necessarily, where the windows are tighter that you have to throw into.
Yeah.
However, Anthony Richardson's a high character guy, kind of person that you want leading your football team. Supposedly last week during a rookie event, Anthony Richardson stayed back after all the rookies had left and cleaned up the space that they were in. And one of the coaches came up to him and was like, "Hey, man, it was the president of the players union. He was like, "Hey, man, you don't have to do that. We got people for that." He's like, "No, like, we made this mess. We should be cleaning it up." And he cleaned it up himself.
Dang.
So
There
high character guy, Anthony
Yeah.
Richardson. It just
Look at that kid.
remains to be seen how he's going to pan out on that football field.
But the problem with Indy is they did nothing in the offseason to help out the team other than that, right?
That's
It
what it
seemed
feels
like
like.
their sole focus was, this position.
Yeah, we got to have a quarterback.
But that wasn't the whole reason your team sucked so bad last year. And this is what worries me about Indy, is that they're singularly focused on one thing.
they need
They
offensive.
have a lot of problems.
They need offensive line help.
Yes.
However, with Anthony Richardson's escapability, his mobility, his just straight up speed, his cannon for an arm, he might be able to overcome some of those deficiencies, and that'll work while he's a younger guy.
Yeah, but once he ages,
Well, yeah, once he starts getting some years on him and he just naturally starts to slow down as humans do, they will have to have some offensive line help, but that gives them literally years to address that.
that's right. Number 30, Tampa Bay.
Oh man, I don't love it. They got Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask for their quarterback battle.
Blah.
Yeah, it's blah.
I mean, right.
Supposedly, Ezekiel Elliott is possibly looking to become a Buck.
I'm sorry, Zeke.
Yeah, well, they don't have anyone else in
Sorry,
that
buddy.
backfield, so who's going to take the
Might
job
as well
from him?
get paid. I mean,
And he can play.
he can play, no doubt.
Well, I'm saying there's no one else there
That's what
in
I'm
the
saying. He's
in
gonna
the
be on
running back
field.
spot.
Yeah, he'll be out there. Number 31, Houston.
I look for them to improve. Actually, I look for Houston to jump Indy as the cellar dweller in the AFC South.
Yeah.
I mean, they got the number 2 and 3 picks in the draft this year in Will Anderson Jr. and not Bryce Young, but CJ Stroud. The problem is, while they got CJ Stroud, they don't have anyone for him to throw the ball to.
And there's that.
Like, they got Noah Brown and Dalton Schultz.
And there's that.
Yeah, like that's who they've got in Houston. I think they've got an old who's that running back? David used to play for the Cardinals. Came over in that trade for DeAndre Hopkins.
I can't remember his last name.
I can't think of his name either. They got him, I guess, and he's not really great. So the Texans need some help offensively and defensively, but I think they've got enough going for them that they can move up into that third place in the AFC South slot.
And finally, number 32, the Arizona Cardinals.
I mean, it's hard for me to say that the Cardinals are the worst team in the NFL, because when you have a healthy Kyler Murray, like, the threat of him running is always there.
Yeah.
You got DeAndre Hopkins still. I don't care if he's another year older. Like, he's still dangerous. There's a lot to be happy with in Arizona. I mean, I think I would personally have the Texans and the Colts ranked lower than the Cardinals.
Yeah, I would think so. It's gonna be interesting. Like I said, we've got off season is in full swing now. Mini camps
they're about to get started.
They're about to get started, aren't they? Real soon, because
they've had some rookie mini camps already, so OTAs will be starting soon. Speaking of someone who missed a day of rookie mini camp, congratulations to Buccaneers head coach Todd Bowles. He finally graduated from college 37 years after he left Temple to begin his playing career in the NFL.
I love these stories.
So Todd Bowles kept a promise to his late mother, and he is now a college graduate. The 59-year-old Bowles walked across the stage at Mount St. Mary's University on Saturday to receive his diploma after earning a Bachelor of Science degree in Youth and Community Development. He missed the second day of the Buccaneers rookie camp to attend the ceremony, knowing that his mother, Joan, would be proud of him for completing his degree.
Yeah. And we had another graduate.
And Todd Bowles said this. So when he went on to say that when he left college, my mother never said anything. She just went with it, and she let me go ahead and live my life. She passed in 2009, and the only thing she asked me was to make sure I got my degree. So here he is 14 years later following that up on that promise.
That's awesome. Congratulations to Todd Bowles. But Jalen Hurts deserves some congratulations as well. Quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles got his master's degree.
Yeah,
from Oklahoma.
Got his master's degree from Oklahoma. You know, he got his undergrad from Alabama before he ever transferred.
That's right.
Remember, he was only at Alabama for 3 years.
It's a smart kid.
Yeah.
This man's smart.
He's a really smart.
He's a smart
really
dude.
sharp dude.
He is.
So shout out to Jalen Hurts. I wish you don't win football games.
That's the thing.
Put up all the numbers in the world.
Right.
I wish you success, but just don't win football games for the Eagles, please.
I'm such a Jalen Hurts fan. I love the guy.
It's hard not to be.
It is. You hate that he plays for Philadelphia.
He says the right stuff. He does the right stuff. He's a high character guy.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing to not like about Jalen Hurts other than, for me personally, he plays for the Eagles.
Yeah, that's the only thing. There's no quit in Jalen. Always trying to improve himself as a person, as a player. That's the guy you want leading your football team. That's the kind of guy you want leading your football team. So Philadelphia is very, very, very fortunate, I think, to have a man like him leading the charge of that football team. They've needed a guy like Jalen Hurts forever in that pro. And boy, what a gift for those guys. I think it's great. And I think it's great for Jalen. So congratulations, guys. We appreciate you tuning in today.
We got one more talking point before we go. So if you know how to kick in NFL football.
Yes.
If you can kick in NFL football, if you can put your toe to leather and put it through the uprights, Cowboys special teams coordinator John Fossil is considering anybody on the earth to potentially be the newest kicker for the Dallas Cowboys.
Exactly.
Of course, we saw.
You have legs, use them.
Brett Maher had a great year last year, and then he got into the playoffs and he forgot how kicking works.
It was ugly.
His mechanics were terrible. He had the yips. Currently, the Cowboys have Tristan Vizcaíno, who's played in 10 games over 3 years and has 12 total career field goal attempts. So John Fossil is fully prepared to turn over every rock to find a kicker. He said, "We got Tristan on the roster. Anybody else on earth who is not on the team right now is under consideration." That's everybody, really.
Funny. It's just funny.
His quote continues, "That's everybody, really. That could be a lot of different guys we're still looking at. XFL, USFL, veterans on the street, younger guys who haven't found a way. If you're on Earth, if you are walking this planet, you have a shot to be the Dallas Cowboys kicker."
That's just sad.
If nothing,
we have one of the greats in kicking history on our team at one point, and now this is where we're at.
But also, John Fossil's probably the greatest special teams coordinator in the game.
That is true. That is very true.
So you couldn't ask for a better kicking coach.
No, and I love his personality. This dude's great.
I love his trick plays, his willingness to just go for it. Like, he's awesome, man.
That's right. And before we go, we just have to leave it with a beautiful picture
of
my granddaughter, his niece. She's so sweet. Look at that. Look at that. We're fortunate.
Yeah.
Guys.
So, hey, quick Drizzler Big Kahuna.
We got about the Big Kahuna, Big Kahuna. Hold on a second. We got graphics for this.
We do have graphics for this.
Graphics for this. So
we got to fire them up, baby.
Time. All right. So let's go ahead and give out some
the Drizzler.
The Drizzler Awards. Here we go. I'm gonna put some sound behind that. I've got to. All right. Who's your Drizzler?
So my Drizzler this week is Abram Smith.
Okay.
XFL DC Defenders running back, had the most costly penalty for the DC Defenders.
We did talk about this.
So he scored a 2-point conversion. After scoring said 2-point conversion, he takes the football, throws it at an Arlington Renegades player.
Throws it at the player. Was it unintentional?
No.
It was intentional.
So he gets flagged 15 yards, which moves the ensuing kickoff back 15 yards. In the XFL, the rule is the ball has to go 20 to the opposing 20-yard line.
That's right.
In the air.
Yes.
It cannot hit the ground before it gets to the opposing side of the field at the 20-yard line. This kick did not make it.
Nope.
So it gave the Renegades great field position. They were at the DC 35 or 40. They're on the plus side of the field. One play, Arlington answers right back to take over that game. So, Abram Smith, you're the Drizzler, buddy.
Go, agreed wholeheartedly. So,
some Hawaiian.
Something cool.
Ocean
Go
sounds,
to Big Kahuna thing. Oh, I know what to do here.
I feel like I know where you're going.
Okay. Let's go. Let's go. Big Kahuna.
Big Kahuna this week, the entire Arlington Renegades organization.
That's right. What a turnaround.
Great turnaround. They were 4-6 going into the season. I did learn that postseason stats, wins and losses also count towards your overall record.
Good.
So technically, Arlington finished the season at 500.
That's right.
They finished the season 6-6.
Yes.
As I was watching the broadcast, I noticed that the record, instead of saying 4-6, said 5-6, which meant they count the win against Houston for the South Division title, which was a playoff game. DC was 11-1 or 10-1. They're now 10-2.
Yep.
So the Arlington Renegades go from 4-6, barely scraping into the playoffs because the South Division was so bad this year.
We thought they were going to be murderized.
Yeah, we thought they were going to get destroyed. But for them to actually absolutely dominate Houston and then to turn around and dominate the best team in the league, like we thought early in the season it was going to be Houston and DC for the championship.
That's right. That's what we really
And Arlington went and beat the two best teams in the league in back-to-back weeks.
Hey, there you go.
To lock up the South Division title and the XFL championship. So shout out to the Arlington Renegades, Bob Stoops, Luis Perez, that whole team, Cravon LeBlanc. Those guys balled out. They're the Big Kahunas this week.
XFL's fun.
XFL's a lot of fun.
XFL's fun. All right, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you tuning in. Join us in next week. We'll be right back here. Talk to y'all soon.